just sort of repeat what we just did. We're looking at a graph that shows the length and perimeters for rectangles with a fixed area. And it says in whole number dimensions. So we were just looking at this graph and noticed that the horizontal axis is length and the vertical axis is perimeter. And each point represents a rectangle because that's what the title says. If you read problem A, it says, what is the perimeter of a rectangle with a length of 2? And my suggestion was to take the straight edge and go to the length of 2, which would be right here, down here, and then project up and find the point that has a length of 2, and that's this point right here. I'll call it point A. I know that the perimeter is 32. So I know the length is 2. I don't know the width, but I know the perimeter is 32. And I also know that perimeter is length plus width plus width. Because we did that before. And so, Miles, what was the perimeter? Yeah, but in this picture, 32. And then, Jeb, what's the length in this picture? 2. And so, Maya, we're trying to find the missing W. Does that make sense? So, like, I know this adds up to be how much? 4. So, I need to figure out how much to add to 4 to make 32. 4 plus what? Or I could go backwards and do inverse operations, right? I could do 32 take away 28. Right. If I do 32 take away 4, I get 28. And so I know my two W's together have to be 28. So each W has to be 14. And so that's how I figure out what my picture looks like. So I found the perimeter. I've answered that question. Perimeter is 32. And I've also found the width to be 14. That's kind of what we did last week. That's what I would like you to do for each question. Is a little bit different, but draw a rectangle for each question and then go ahead and try to answer it. We'll come back to this. So we're going to do part B now, which says describe the dimensions. Dimensions means like length times width. So, for example, up here, if I wanted to do dimensions of this problem A, this is a 2 by 14. We would say it's a 2 by 14. That's the dimensions. So for part B, describe the dimensions and the shape of the rectangle that has the greatest perimeter, represented by the graph. So the shape would be like, is it long and narrow, or short and wide, or a square? That's how you would describe it. Okay, so we want to find the highest perimeter. So where's the rectangle? What point represents the greatest perimeter on this graph? Yeah, so let's change this. Let's call this point A. Would have made more sense. And then we could call this other one B. And then C, and we'll just kind of go around D, E, and F so we could talk about them. Is there a second point that has the highest perimeter? F does, right? So they both have the same perimeter. And then, Chad, what is that perimeter?
That perimeter is 58.
It's 58. Okay, so the perimeter is 58. And then I want to make a picture of that rectangle, so I'm going to take my straight line tool and go all the way down to the length graph. And my straight line tool, it's longer, and so it has a length of how much? 1. So I have to find a missing value, but I know the length is 1. I don't know the width. And so I'm gonna do the same process again. I'm gonna make an equation. I know the perimeter, 58, has to be equal to the length plus the length plus the width plus the width. So that's 2 plus something has to be 58. So Miles, what do I have to have in that box? Oh, you're over there. You're working on that. Let's, how about Maya? What do I have to have in that box? Like how much would have to add to 2 to get 58? $56, right? So that's 2 W's. So if I take 56 and divide it by 2, that's how I'm going to get W. Because I know both W's together make 56.
Oh, how you got the B? Oh, I get it.
Good. So 2 goes into 16 8 times. So now I know that this W is 28. And that's W is 28. And if I wanted to check my work, 28 plus 28 is 56. And then add another 1 plus 1, and that's 58. And I have my perimeter is 58. Okay? Chad, what do you need help with? I need to not talk right now. So Daniel, is there another rectangle I could draw that also has a perimeter of 58? Because I took care of point A. Which other one has a rectangle of 58? Point F. And the length of point F is how much, Serafina? 28. So the width has to, so it has to look like that, except for it's just long and skinny. So what's the missing value up here? 1. Right? You don't have to do the problem over. Right. So the dimensions, the question that it's asking me to answer is, it is a 1 by 28. That's the dimension. And the shape, I would say it's kind of long and narrow. That's this one, or short and wide. And this one's long and narrow. Oh, that's funny. That's not what I meant to do. This one is long. Try again. Hello. Okay. This one is long and narrow. That's how I would describe it. And this one is kind of short and wide, but it's still a rectangle. Okay? Do we get that? Okay, so can you try C by yourself? Try C by yourself. Part C, you should have found that the width is 7.
Oh. Hold on.
So you're looking for least perimeter, right? So like point C would be a least perimeter because it's the lowest on the graph, and it has a perimeter of 22. So I started with the perimeter of 22 right here. Okay? Serafina, does that make sense?
Yeah.
And when I read down on the graph, that shows me that the width is 4. You see that?
Yeah.
And so I know that if I made a mistake, if I made an equation, I'd say my perimeter 22. So 22 is equal to 4 plus 4 plus W plus W. And the 4 plus 4 makes an 8. And I need to figure out 8 plus what is 14, and that's, 8 plus what is 22, and that's where the 14 came from.
So would you divide 8 by 22?
I would say 22 take away 8 to get that 14.
Okay. So you're
And then I'd have to make the 14 split into 2 equal parts for the top and the bottom of the rectangle.
Wait. So you would do it different than part B?
No. So the perimeter is 22, right?
right.
Okay, let's erase that. We can do it together so it makes more sense. So you get the perimeter's 22, right?
Right.
And so what you're going to do is then you have to say, I know my perimeter, I can find by doing width plus length plus length, which is 4 plus 4, plus W plus W. I need to find W.
Yeah.
I know that this is 8.
Yeah.
So I know that 22 is equal to 8 plus W plus W. You get that? Well, I just put in the 8 instead of 4 plus 4.
Yeah, but how do you know to subtract?
Well, I'm going to do 22, I'm going to do the inverse operation and take away 8, and I get 14. That tells me that 8 plus 14 is 22. So both of these W's together make a 14. So 2 of the W's make 14, so 1 W has to be 7. Because that's half of 14.
Okay.
Now to answer the next question, what is the fixed area? Well, let's go back and figure out the areas. The area here is length times width, which is 4 times 7. What's 4 times 7? 28. 28 meters squared. Okay, up here, the area was 1 times 28, because it's length times width. So it's still 28 meters squared.
Oh, so they're all 20.
They're all 28, because up here, the area
It's 20.
is 2 times 14, right?
Yeah.
Which is still 28 meters squared.
So all of them is 28.
So that's what fixed area means. The fixed area is 28 meters squared. It means the area is the same for all the different rectangles. Because that's what fixed means. Another way to think of it is constant area. Okay?
Okay.
Correct. So we're going to stop there. Then we're going to look at something called fixed perimeter.